Now let's look at the vintage compressor. This module isn't based on any one hardware unit, but takes the best bits of several vintage units and combines them into this one processor. It's unusual in the digital world in that it's a feedback compressor, performing level detection on the output as is more usual on analog compressors, rather than looking at the incoming signal as is more usual on digital compressors. A compressor detects any signal that crosses a certain level, known as the threshold, and then applies gain reduction to that signal. How quickly it does that is set by the attack parameter, and how long it does it for is adjusted by the release parameter. Let's look at it in a little more detail. The detection phase of the vintage compressor also has detection filters, which allows more control over which frequencies the detection algorithm is more or less sensitive to. Access the detection filter view by clicking on its icon in the top left corner of the display. Here we find three nodes: a high pass filter node, a peak filter node, and a high shelf filter node. Click and drag these to filter which part of the signal is being used to trigger the compressor. Click on the detection filter solo control to isolate this signal. Once the detection filter is set up, use the threshold control to set the level that triggers the gain reduction phase of the compressor. Meters here indicate the level of the audio as well as any gain reduction that's happening using red meters at the top. Some modes use a soft knee, so there may be some mild compression below the threshold point. Switching to the gain reduction trace view can be helpful here. Click on its icon in the top left hand corner of the display. The dark solid line at the top shows when and how much gain reduction is taking place. Ratio sets by how much the signal that crosses the threshold is reduced. The higher this is set, the more the signal is reduced. For example, at a setting of 2:1, a signal that's 4 decibels over the threshold is reduced to 2 decibels. The same signal with a ratio of 4:1 is reduced to 1 decibel. Attack adjusts how quickly the compressor reacts. Shorter times apply gain reduction faster than slower times. Release sets how quickly the gain reduction is released. You can see the effect of these controls in the gain trace view as I adjust the parameters through their extremes. There are 3 modes set using the mode selector on the far right. Sharp provides crisp dynamics with an emphasis on transients. Balanced creates the balance between preserving the dynamics and enhancing the body of the audio. Smooth, as the name suggests, smooths out the transients and dynamics of the material, but also brings out the rest of the signal, creating a thicker and fuller sound. The post-gain control makes up the gain that's lost by the compressor. If auto gain is highlighted, the gain levels are auto-compensated to provide comparable levels between the processed and unprocessed audio levels so that gain changes do not affect your perception. Like many of the other modules, this vintage compressor can operate in stereo or mid-side modes. We looked at those in more detail in the EQ video. And that's a vintage compressor.